The story of how this book influenced my life began about a month ago. As February was reaching an end, I was approaching what would soon become a full-blown existential crisis, even though I really wasn't aware of it yet. At the time, I was going to a job that I was more obligated than excited to be at, and I was attending classes which felt more like busy work than actual learning experiences. And I was surrounding myself with people who were more excited about the next Call of Duty release date or where the party was going to be, as opposed to appreciating each other and actually wanting to be around each other. And this wasn't sitting well with me. The voice inside my head was screaming that there had to be something more, that there had to be something more than just this routine, that all of this had to mean something. And I started searching for that meaning, and I wasn't finding it. But I would, just not in Panama City. As March began, my best friend Jessica and I took a trip down south to see one of our favorite bands. We had arranged to stay with another close friend named Landon, who'd moved to Tampa at the beginning of the school year. He'd changed his major to philosophy and seemed really intent on telling us all the things he learned. At first I thought this was going to be obnoxious, but it turned out to be pretty beneficial. On the way to the concert, he started talking to us about absurdism and the man who pioneered the philosophy, Albert Camus. Albert Camus basically said that at some point everyone reaches a realization that there's no ultimate meaning to life, that everything's just absurd and it just happens. He also said that you can handle this realization one of three ways. Either you can take a leap of faith and turn to things like religion or science, or you can get overwhelmed by the fact that life is meaningless and it can result in suicide. Or, the third option, you can turn to existentialism and begin to create the meaning for yourself. As Landon was telling me about absurdism, I realized that this was the exact crisis I was having. And I realized that I had to make a choice. And the only choice that seemed even kind of plausible to me was the last one, finding the meaning for myself. Even though at the time I wasn't sure exactly how to do this, I started putting the idea into motion. I went to the concert and let the sound and the movement of the audience impact me. I let myself feel it. I went to the Dolly Museum and listened to the tour guide tell me what the paintings were supposed to mean, but still took the time to appreciate how they made me feel and what they meant to me. And on our last night in Tampa, Landon turned to me and asked if I wanted to get a tattoo. It was 1 in the morning, and on any other night I would have laughed at him and told him it was a terrible idea. But given the context of our earlier conversation, I agreed. The end result is a small tattoo here, behind my ear, that to most people has no meaning whatsoever. But that's not the point. The point is, it's a permanent reminder of the experience I had, the realization that I have to have the meaning for myself, and that I have to actively seek out life instead of waiting for it to fall into my lap. Well, I came back to Panama City with still fueling this idea, and I was hungry for everything. I was hungry for knowledge and experience and movement, and me being true to my nature. When I'm hungry for knowledge, I ended up at a bookstore. I was browsing the philosophy section looking for a book Landon recommended, and this caught my eye. I pulled it out and started flipping through the first couple pages and immediately found a sense of comfort. Apparently, the way I'd been feeling before I went to Tampa was normal, or at least normal within the context of existentialism. The anxiety, the forlornness, the alienation, it all made sense. These are the three major themes of existentialism. The anxiety comes in when you realize that life is absurd and that there's no grand meaning. The forlornness comes in when you realize that no one can help you develop this meaning. And the alienation comes when you realize you have to find this meaning for yourself. And these feelings, well, they spur from another major theme of existentialism, the rejection of meaning-giving narratives. Humans crave meaning and order. Some find it in religion, some find it in science, and some find it in reason. And these are called absolute systems, meaning systems that attempt to explain everything within their own context. But some people reject all of these. And this is what Friedrich Nietzsche was referring to when he said, God is dead. It was not a stab at religion, just a commentary on the fact that more and more people are starting to reject absolute systems and are getting hungry for finding the meaning for themselves in their lives. But what happens when you remove traditional beliefs that help people make sense of their worlds? Well, for existentialists, it's simple. You accept the absurdness and you begin to find the meaning within yourself. Instead of weighing the meaning of life on some objective universal scale, you start looking at it more subjectively. You begin to judge on a personal level how things make you feel, or what's important, or what's meaningful, or what's beautiful, and you learn to appreciate the world around you for what it is, instead of waiting for some better, nicer world to come along. And when you do this, you begin to lead a life that's authentic and in tune with the truth of who you are in the world you live in. And you begin to embrace your individuality and your passion as strongly as possible. Even though existentialism sounds kind of pessimistic in the fact that they say that there's no ultimate meaning, it's not nihilism. It's not this total, disregard of life because there's no grand truth. That's not it at all. It's actually really optimistic because it lets you become free to create the meaning that you seek. Once you accept that there's nothing but here and now, we become free to appreciate the world, and you stop craving what's going to come next, or you stop craving that meaning because it's around you all the time. And it's because of that realization, and partly this book, that the crisis I was experiencing a month ago now seems more bearable. And it may be in my nature to question things and to seek meaning, but now I have more say in the matter, and that I can actively live my life to find that meaning instead of sitting on the sidelines and waiting for it to come to me. And I like that. The world may be absurd, but it's up to me to take that absurdness and create something beautiful and meaningful. And that's exactly what I intend to do.